Shalom again, everybody. I want to share with you a message today, which is a little bit different from what we normally discuss. And I think you could already see where I'm going to be going by the background that I put up here for this short video. I want to lay down some foundational rules here. As you know, here at our Kosher Torah school, I try to teach people from the old prophetic paths how to stand up against, bluntly speaking, the forces of evil in this world. And the problem that we all face is the recognition of exactly what these forces are. For those who will normally cross my path, being that I am a religious clergy, they will tend to interpret the forces of evil in some semblance of a religious identity. And that's not wrong. However, the real essence of evil is not just something to be defined by religion. Evil is a psychological state, it's a psychic state of incongruency with our natural, normal human identity created by God with that which the world tries to impose upon it. This is nothing new. This type of theft, robbery of identity, has been infecting, that's a good word, infecting like a disease, human society since the earliest of times. The first of the great conquerors was Nimrod. And not that Nimrod conquered great nations or land. What he sought to conquer was the human mind and to control everyone in a single, well, I guess in his day, their version of a new world order. Well, that spirit of Nimrod, mind you, the Hebrew word Nimrod is based upon the root verb to rebel. His name means rebellion. Well, if we are really going to address spiritual issues, religious issues, we need to strip them of their mythologies and recognize that we are dealing with universal, archetypal, psychological phenomena that is applicable to every one of us, regardless of our positions on religion. Now, understand and know this. Throughout all of human history, in every nation, in every culture, in every century, there has always been that which we can call the Spirit of God, the movement of heaven to guide, to direct, and to influence human beings. There's a great Kabbalistic foundation for that, but I don't want to get religious right now. I want to maintain our psychological focus because this is what we really need to understand, especially now where we're having to psychically fight modern day Nimrod. So, if you look throughout history, there have always been those men and women, of course, who have been inspired. Somehow, somewhere, some powerful force from above spoke into their minds and their hearts, directing them, guiding them, influencing them to bring to the world tremendous amounts of wisdom, beauty, art, science, music, all in the direction to bring to collective humanity messages of a higher source, higher wisdom, higher truths. And the recipients of these, in quote, spirits were not necessarily all religious people, but needless to say, there was something within them throughout the centuries that spoke profundity. You can look to the Greek philosophers, the Chinese philosophers, people out of India throughout all the ages. One cannot be other than be in awe. When you read like Greek classics, have you actually ever read like Plato or Aristotle? Have you actually ever read from the Orient the actual works of Zhuangzi, Sun Tzu, or the Tao Te Ching, or gone into the Indian traditions of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali? These are not to be viewed from a religious point of view. I'm not here to endorse any of these things from a religious standpoint. Matter of fact, I can't and I won't. But from a psychological point of view, all of these works offer great, profound wisdom to collective humanity. Now let's move beyond that. Take a look into the more recent centuries. Look into the likes of people like Isaac Newton, or for that matter, Leonardo da Vinci, or for that matter, Nikola Tesla. Look at musicians, the likes of a Bach or a Mozart. Look at people like Michelangelo and others whose works of art, music, science are profound. Yes, there is a spirit that moves throughout humanity because God in the Torah, in the Bible, says this was the way it was going to be, and it is. Now, for the last century or so, as we know, we have all become the children of, if you will, the genre of the motion picture, movies, television, where in which wise and enlightened writers have always been able to come across on screen with some really strange and profound works, the likes of which have deeply touched collective humanity. Think about this. Back in the 1970s, when a young director named George Lucas was out there making a movie called Star Wars, somehow within him, he had a thought, an idea. He knew what he wanted to do. It was like a burden inside of him, which had to come out in the creative form. And as such, do you really think he had a clue that Star Wars would have had such a global effect on collective consciousness? No. But it did. And there are others that do. And I want to share with you, as you can see right from here, a television program. And I'm going to encourage you to watch this program. I'm not here to be a TV critic or anything of the kind, but I'm going to tell you something very special about this program. I watched it for the first time over 60 years ago, and its message is as relevant today as it was then when it was first made back in the middle 1960s, because its message, subtitled, How to Stand Against the System. We are overwhelmed and inundated by the system, modern day Nimrod, the New World Order. If you want to get religious, call it the coming Antichrist, the Armilos, whatever you want to call it. All the names and the words really just don't matter because we're dealing with a psychological phenomenon. For those of you who think that you're going to prep against the system and the fall of it, and your bullets and your beans are going to save the day, well, no, they're not. Because there is one ingredient, one special thing that needs to be strengthened beyond all else. And without this, you will fall. And strengthening that I'm speaking of is not of your mind or your brain, but of your heart. If you really want to participate in psychic self-defense, and you really want to have a heart that can stand up against the system and not be seduced by all of the social media garbage and all the hype and the manipulations, then it's not enough that you just train your mind to think in a certain way. You have to get your heart right. And the attitude of heart is one of stubborn defiance. Throughout the Bible, the nation of Israel was always called an Keshe Oref, which means a stiff-necked people. And while that has its negative side, it also has its positive side, of adamant refusal to compromise with evil, defiant stubbornness. Back in the 1960s, an actor named Patrick McGowan had a burden in his heart. I would think emotionally the same as Da Vinci would, or a Mozart, or a Michelangelo, or a Tesla. Not the car, the man, the scientist. And he birthed this television series, which was a message, a universal message, an archetypal message of how the individual stands against the system, how the individual fights the system. And in all my years, while you have all the religious books and psychic material, sometimes we need imagery that speaks to the heart. The Bible is no stranger to this, and neither is art or music or science any stranger to this. What Mr. McGowan put together was an archetypal message from above, as far as I'm concerned, about how to have that raw, defiant attitude to stand against the system properly. Not with revolutions and riots in the streets. That does nothing. Remember the old song, was it from the 1960s, 1970s, from The Who? It was called Won't Get Fooled Again. If you're not familiar with the song, go look it up. It begins with the words, we're marching in the streets, our children at our feet, and the morals we worship will be God. It's about revolution. And the final words of the song were shocking, almost prophetic. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. This is what happens when our rebellion is manipulated by others. But the true rebellion against the dark side, against the Nimrods of today, is by having that attitude of defiance. And that was so beautifully, eloquently personified in this television program. Only 17 episodes freely available on YouTube and many other places. And yes, took place in the 1960s. It's all about a man being taken out of the world, kidnapped, brought to a special place called the village, where no one has a name anymore, but only a number. Now, does any of that sound familiar? Think about the dehumanization process going on today. Well, 60 years ago, how to respond to it was already put out there for us to know. And I think it's important for us as individuals to learn the way we human beings always have, through imagery, through story. And therefore, I'm out here to a television program. Not because, gee, I think it's cool. I have a lot of TV programs I think are cool, but this one has a message. This one has an important message, especially for our times today. And that is why I want to encourage you to learn how to stand up with true psychic warfare in the real successful spirit of defiance against the system that is trying to dehumanize you. So this is the show, The Prisoner, starring Patrick McGowan as the infamous number 6. I think you should watch these episodes. Now, this show has been so popular, it's a cult classic. It's been so famous. There have been college courses taught on it. The internet is full of interviews and documentaries. And stay away from them. I don't want you to experience this program through the filter or opinion of others. I don't want you to think about it at all. I want you to feel it. I want you to put yourself into the shoes of the actor Patrick McGowan. Because the great lesson about this program is, well, I'll tell you this. The real secret of who the identity of the prisoner was the actor Patrick McGowan himself. This was his story. This is a burden from his heart, a message that felt so powerfully placed within him that he had to share it with the world, and he did. People didn't understand the show. People, you think it's supposed to be some kind of a James Bond spy show, and it's so much more than that. It's an archetype. It speaks to the heart. And I want to encourage you Watch this show. Learn how through the expressions and the actorship and the dialogues and the plot. Learn from these messages of inspiration and think about, how can I stand against the system? What do I need to do? And how can I do it practically so as not to be absorbed, so as not to lose my self identity and not become a cog in the machine or just a number? So please follow your hearts. Watch this program. It's only 17 episodes. You can binge watch them if you wish. You'll experience the spirit of defiance, but not one that's irrational, but one that was rather very smart, very clever, very well thought out and planned, and yet refused to submit, and therefore, in the end, wins. And that's what I want for every one of us. So, God works in strange ways. God is to be found in strange places, but God is to be found everywhere. And if you really want psychic self-defense against the system as it is today and be inspired in your heart, don't worry about what's in your head, in your heart, watch this TV show and see for yourselves. Post in comments if you want. Contact me if you need. Watch it. And I think if you do, you'll understand. God's blessings. Thank you. And as the TV show says, be seeing you.